Title 42. Yesterday, Jennifer asked me a question about Title 42, which was the Supreme Court had just ruled to keep Title 42 basically indefinitely until the court hears arguments and then makes a decision. So we're looking at probably well into spring of next year. Title 42 allows the border police to, instead of have people who cross over and want to apply for asylum, instead of them filling out the forms, doing everything, and then waiting in the United States, I guess in detention, until they have their day in court, which is taking longer and longer and longer because of how many people are coming for asylum. It allows them to send them back across the border to Mexico. And I guess there's a Trump administration cut a deal with Mexico to do that. All of this was passed during COVID, and the excuse, the justification for the executive order to in a sense, overturn regular legal American procedures was COVID. So this was explicitly an executive order signed in the context of COVID, in the context of a health emergency. And whether you like this particular provision, Title 42, or not, it's a question of the rule of law. That is, the health emergency is passed, should the law keep going? Or should there be something else passed? There should be some other law, rule that is passed in order to deal with this. This went to the Supreme Court. 19 Republican states, red states, applied to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to extend Title 42. The Supreme Court chose yesterday to grant that extension and to hear arguments about it later in the year and to see whether they would extend it permanently or not. But it for now will extend into the spring. What I found interesting when it all came out was that Judge Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch, actually voted against this decision. So the decision was 5-4 in a 6-3 conservative majority. Gorsuch sided with the liberal justices. And I predicted, when I talked to Jennifer, I predicted that he did it on the basis of rule of law, division of powers, and so on. And that's exactly what happened. So this is the quote from Gorsuch's opinion in opposition to keeping Title 42 around. And he writes, "The current border crisis is not a COVID crisis. Courts should not be in the business of perpetuating administrative edicts designed for one emergency only because elected officials have failed to address a different emergency." The different emergency is all those people on the border who want to come, who would cross over if Title 42 was eliminated and wait for their asylum in the United States. He added, "We are a court of law, not policymakers of last resort." That's good. He's a good writer. So I agree completely with Gorsuch. You want to solve the border crisis, pass a law. You want to solve the issues, the underfunding of the courts, the underfunding of Border Patrol, the crazy asylum laws that we have, pass a law. You want to institutionalize Title 42 as forever, pass a law. The court should not be here allowing the executive to use a order that was passed to deal with one emergency in order to deal with another emergency. I think it's wrong. I think it's a violation of the responsibilities. So it's a violation of the separation of powers. Congress should do its job. The president should do its job. But the courts, you remember when conservative used to, this is a long time ago, so you might not remember it, when conservative used to complain about the courts legislating from the bench And conservatives says, no, the court shouldn't legislate from the bench. It's not their responsibility. Well, that's what the Supreme Court just did. They legislated from the bench. Here's a continuation of what Gorsuch wrote. He says, quote, the states may question whether the government followed the right administrative steps before issuing this decision, an issue of which I express no view. But they do not seriously dispute that the public health justification undergirding the Title 42 order has lapsed. So whatever you think of Title 42, and I don't have a strong opinion about it. I would like the whole immigration law changed, or at least the whole portion on asylum changed. There has to be a more rational way of dealing with these kind of things. And it cannot be that anybody, that the United States must, in its immigration law, prioritize asylum over everything else. So you need a new immigration law. You need a proper immigration law. And until Republicans and Democrats come together to actually do something rational here, the border will continue to be a mess. Building a wall will not help. Having Title 42 has not helped. Getting rid of Title 42 will not help. None of these things, these are all little, they're not even Band-Aids. They're nothing. They're nothingness. And they're just a waste of resources, a waste of energy. What needs to happen is to actually, and there was talk about a compromise bill that just dealt with the issues happening on the border these days between, I think, Sinema and one of the Republicans, and they had a compromise bill. But maybe because Sinema has left the Democratic Party, the Democrats didn't want to support it, and maybe because Republicans are just obnoxious about immigration, about any aspect of immigration, and don't want to offend their base, which is fanatical about immigration. A compromise bill around something like this cannot be achieved, and therefore you can't have a solution. If your legislature is dysfunctional, there are no solutions, and the court should not provide a solution. Let the constituents of the politicians who cannot get their act together, let them suffer the consequences. Thank you for listening or watching the Yaron Brook Show. If you'd like to support the show, we make it as easy as possible for you to trade with me. You get value from listening. You get value from watching. Show your appreciation. You can do that by going to yaronbrookshow.com/support, by going to Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, and just making a appropriate contribution on any one of those channels. Also, if you'd like to see the Yaron Brook Show grow, please consider sharing our content, and of course, subscribe. Press that little bell button right down there on YouTube so that you get an announcement when we go live. And for those of you who are already subscribers and those of you who are already supporters of the show, thank you. I very much appreciate it.